So, you want to do a film? I'm Saphira and I'm from Electus Films. So right now we're in Perth, Western Australia, just doing a couple of projects over here and of course catching up with family and friends. And on top of that, I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to do, a couple of So You Want to Film episodes because of great locations. Okay, in this episode we'll be talking about the different roles in the film industry and why it matters. Okay, just a disclaimer, there are many roles out there. They're all equivalent, as important as one another, but of course, just to mention a few, this is something that is more common and people hear it a lot more often, even and some of you may already know about it, but I'm just going to mention a bit of the difference between one role to another, and etc. And of course, to begin with would be the director. The director is the one who orchestrates the entire film. So basically someone who communicates with the cast and crew and of course, tries to realize his vision in post-production, pre-production and of course production. Mind me the little sequence of that, but of course at the end of the day, he's the one really running the whole entire journey of the whole story of feature film or short film, etc. Under that would be the scriptwriter. Okay, most of the time the scriptwriter is also the director. The scriptwriter is someone who actually writes, of course writes the story of the film. The script is the blueprint of the film that the director worked with, in order to realize his vision. There are two different people working on it. Director of course will have to work hand in hand with the scriptwriter and vice versa. But most often for feature films, they're all one person. But on television series, often we find there are different script writers for different episodes, and they're usually two different people. And of course, that depends on different shows as well. Different shows has different directors for different episodes, this kind of thing. I'm sure you guys know about that as well. And of course, other than that would be assistant director. The assistant director is less of a common one, but this assistant director is someone who actually also, I would personally think one of the most important people out there as well. This person is the one making sure that you're running on time, everyone knows what's going on, the grip knows what's going on, the lighting person knows what's going on, and they usually keep everyone together. Basically, this assistant director is the team player and also the one that sticks everyone together and making sure everyone's on the same page. Other than that would be the cinematographer / director of photography. Okay, what's the difference, you may ask me? Well, technically there's not much difference. This is just in terms. Cinematographer is much a more modest term than director of photography. Honestly, that's all that it is. But nowadays everybody's just saying like cinematographer is the person who also usually handles the camera while dealing and seeing and setting up the mood of the scene, the lighting, the contrast, and making sure that it really describes the whole environment and the mood and telling the story just by the look of it. The cinematographer usually do that, and the same with the director of photography. But director of photography is someone who handles with a larger crew member, like really sitting around, and usually have someone else also, the cameraman, working hand in hand with him. And of course, the cameraman will have a focus puller with him and all that, all the other important roles that I mentioned to you about. Of course, if you would like to know more, you can read up more online about all these different roles. To move forward would be the editor. Editor, online, offline, they're very similar to one another. I think this person, some of you may already know about them, but the editor is someone who sits down, handle a lot of the footage, usually just a straight offline cut of the whole storyline. And in my point of view, I honestly feel the editor is also like a mini director on its own. They have their own set of vision to realize the story while sitting down with the director and looking at the script. Some directors really want the editor to be following his vision. Some directors allow editors to sit down and try to come out and interpret the whole film on its own and come up with their own cuts. So basically, those editors are the ones who sit down and also, making things happen, making magic in post-production. I would say, grips is also one of the important people out there. They're really making sure, they're the ones who's making sure everyone's life is slightly easier on set. The cables are run properly, everything's been set up properly, lightings and everything, and making sure that it doesn't cause any harm to one another and things like that. to summarize everything up would be the fact that, you know, what I mentioned was a traditional filmmaking way of doing things. But of course, there are many different roles out there that are equally as important to the ones that I mentioned before, like set designers, makeup artists, you know, audio engineers on set, and of course, many more like grips runners and things like that. But they're pretty much self-explanatory. Of course, in the modern days right now, the diversifying industries lead to a lot of us wearing many different hats all at once. And of course, you know, on top of that leads to an editor also handling, like, you know, audio post-production, things like that. And of course, nowadays editors just don't sit, you know, in the office and edit, you know, footage. Some of you guys go out there to shoot, you know, some of you guys go out there to direct and everything like that. So there are a lot of roles and everyone's just doing everything. But that's okay as well, because everyone actually has the capability of doing that. If you're really interested to focus on just one role, make sure you find a place where traditional filmmaking is practiced. You know, on top of that, of course, you know, modern production houses, small studios, small production houses who works on commercial and things like that, a lot of them, you know, pick up different roles all at once. For example, an editor would be, you know, also the one doing on shoots and stuff like that, as mentioned before, and things like that. So really, you know, find your cup of tea. And now, why do they really matter? Because to be honest, like I mentioned in the episode before, you can actually look in regards to if you're curious about why video production is expensive. Every single role is a skilled profession. You know, you can't just hire anyone to be, you know, someone who handles the lighting. They need to some sort, you know, be in a way equipped with full of knowledge on how to handle the equipment, how to set up the equipment and things like that. So that's why it matters, because, you know, it's more focused, and, you know, having different roles in doing a project sometimes usually, and I would say I prefer, you know, having one person doing as little role as possible. So this is the reason why the different roles matters, because, you know, everyone, like I mentioned before, it's a skilled profession, and it is important for everyone to make sure they are focused on their tasks, on their individual tasks, to bring out the best quality at the end of the day. And of course, you guys, to end off this episode, you know, just to mention all these different roles, like I mentioned before, there are many different roles out there, and they're all, you know, they're all equally as important to one another. And I'm sure a lot of you would have already known about it, but, you know, this is for some of you who's really curious and pretty new, and some of the things is just how I looked at them, you know, and things like that. And if you have any questions, please, you know, drop your comments below, DM me or anything like that. I also do little sessions. It's free of charge, so if you really want to have a session with me where we can just talk about anything, if you want to ask about school, you know, going to a film school, going to the film industry or anything like that, you're more than welcome to just drop me and book me off candidly. And of course, you know, if there's anything else you would like to ask, you can also email me at the end of the day. So yeah, I guess stay tuned for the next episode where we'll be talking more and sharing more about what I do in life, from being a coffee girl and all the way to a directing role. So pretty much it is. So stay tuned. I'll see you next episode.